What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another part 2. Welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. I've spilt water on myself. Let's do it. Last time we were talking shop about Venom and these alternate amazing powerful versions like She-Venom, Mac Gargan, Venom 2099 even. These amazing characters with amazing backstories, so naturally 10 more are on the way. I'm Taylor McWaters. You know why you clicked this video. Here are the top 10 most powerful alternate versions of Venom, part 2. Let's boogie. Kicking off the list at number 10, Alea Bell. Making her first appearance in Venom 2099, issue 1, Alea Bell started her superpowered days on a tragic note, as most of these are. She was in a car crash that ended up taking the life of her mother. She was raised afterwards by her father Theo Bell, and Alea was having a hard time at school. Some students were bullying her because of the scars on her arm from that crash. So yeah, those kids are awful. Don't be like those kids. Thanks. Next, Alea was selected to go under this experimental treatment developed by Alchemax scientist Dr. Russell. But as you would guess, being on this list, the experiment went south. During this treatment, she saw these visions of an ancient dark god. All these humans bunched up together, all these voices. It was just eternal darkness. But after the treatment, her arm was back to normal, which was her main goal here. But when a bully came forward to try and mess with her the next day, a black tendril reached out of her hand and cut off the Alchemax monitoring bracelet. So something's fishy here. She started to then hear an evil voice in her head, so she ran home and literally tried to wash the symbiote off like a bad henna tattoo. Alchemax was planning on turning her into a super soldier the whole time. That was their secret evil plan. The symbiote and Alea ended up relating to each other, and a new Venom was born. Their first plan of attack was to infiltrate Alchemax and get the rest of the symbiote, not just the arm part. Once Venom was whole again, Alea made it agree to not kill anymore, and instead be a hero with her. A hero that scars childhood bullies named Bether. And before we continue on with this list of alternate versions of Venom, if you want to go ahead and give that video a thumbs up, that would help us a lot. It really goes miles for us here at Top 10 Nerd. You're so sweet. Back to the list. Number 9, X-23. Coming from Edge of Venomverse, this alternate version of the symbiote might be the scariest. Yeah, Laura was born in a lab from the DNA of one James Howlett. She was cloned and alone all of her life, trying multiple times to escape, but still there was no luck. The guards were always ready for her. That is until a goopy solution was bestowed upon her. Her claw cracked open a glass panel that released the Venom symbiote, and the next page we see X-23 out and about trying to talk the symbiote out of eating some of the others who live nearby. Now they don't eat those kids, but when a thug comes along asking those kids for money that they owe, Venom Laura stops him real quick. Says people getting hurt makes them sick, and then 7 pages later they absolutely annihilate more guards in public. We love it. Number 8, Fashion Venom. Venom with a twist, or rather, Venom with a hip twist. The Marvel Age miniseries Spider-Man and Power Pack. This was a 4-parter released in 1984. We have Alex, Julie, Jack, and Katie Power. They're these adorable young kids, each got their powers after a chameleon named Whitey passed his powers onto them. He'd separated all of his abilities into the 4 of them. Kind of like the Fantastic Four, except with more boogers. The miniseries kicks off with Spider-Man thanking the pack for helping him stop Sandman earlier. He thanks the children by getting them VIP tickets to New York Fashion Week, because that's something kids enjoy, apparently. Much better than Legoland, I guess. Little vacay on Spider-Man, we'd love to see it. Now cut to a fashion designer rushing to work. He gets bumped, spills coffee everywhere, his fancy new fabric is ruined, so he's probably ruined as well. That guy that bumped into him just happened to be Venom. Spider-Man swoops in, handles him right quick with a sonic blaster, gets the symbiote right off of him, but where did that symbiote go? That designer got his glittery hands on the suit, and New York Fashion Week wasn't ready for the newest, hottest trend. He introduced this new fabric, so versatile it can change your appearance. Wow, if you want to wear jorts, then all of a sudden you want to wear not jorts. There you go, buy this stuff. Peter just happens to be there snapping pics of MJ, getting those angles, when all of a sudden, those dazzling dresses turn deadly. Turns out the solution of the day is bad European techno music at full volume. That's the solution for most things in life, realistically. Number 7, Venom Thing. Coming from Earth 51838, making his first horrible appearance in Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man issue 304, Benjamin Grimm became the head guard of a prison for superhumans, of course under the commands of President Harry Osborn. While he was there, that's when he came into close contact with a symbiote and became this absolute unit. Look at this thing. The Resistance came in and had to go toe-to-toe with Venom Thing. That's the scariest thing I can imagine. Literally, the scariest thing I can imagine. Out of all the alternate versions, this guy has to be the most haunting. I mean, even before the Venom symbiote actually came into contact with him, I wouldn't want to fight Ben Grimm in any prison on any day. So we have to include him. I mean, look at him, come on. Number 6, Ngozi. Ngozi was a track star. She began her comic run in Venomverse War Stories issue 1. She was an outstanding athlete, an amazing person in general, until she was involved in a horrible bus crash in which paralyzed her from the waist down. Again, another tragic start to this version. Really heartbreaking premises are coming in for part 2, wow. She was outside one day trying to catch a grasshopper for her bug collection. Her hobbies, of course, were turned down a notch. She was a little slower, but still nonetheless she was outside enjoying life regardless. That's when the symbiote and her crossed paths, changing her life forever. The symbiote beforehand had been evading the grasp of Rhino, but when Black Panther was killed in that battle, Ngozi convinced the symbiote to work with her instead in order to protect the civilians of Lagos. The Dora Milaje saw all this unfold and they were impressed with the young lady. They saw courage in her, so they recruited her into their ranks and also into Wakanda, where she would then get another life-changing upgrade into that of the new Black Panther. Not too shabby. Number 5, Hawkeye. While Clint may have evaded the symbiote's grasp in Old Man Hawkeye, he wasn't too lucky in the alternate reality of Earth 32323. That sounds so stupid. I just keep saying it for like 4 minutes, I'm like, help. Beginning with Civil War Volume 2, Issue 2, Clint came into contact with it right after the death of Mac Gargan, who we broke down in Part 1, which if you haven't seen, you can watch it after, it's cool, you can do it out of order, we won't tell anyone. After that, Venom Clint was recruited by Peter Parker in order to infiltrate the Iron. The Iron was Tony's war zone, this was right after Civil War. So Peter recruited Clint in order to steal supplies for Beast to finish his weapon project, so he agreed, but upon landing the group was attacked by Stark Sentinels, and Elektra ended up losing her life. Now the reason Clint got this symbiote in the first place is still unknown, but it's said to be potentially traumatic, as are most things involving the symbiote. Number 4, Kingpin Venom. Wilson Fisk, straight out of Earth TRN 421. He appeared in the 100th anniversary special of Spider-Man issue 1 back in 2014. You would think Kingpin obtaining the symbiote for more power would be enough to make you feel sick, but he also had to upgrade it as well, which is what makes this version so unique, and I had to include it here. He added techno-organic improvements to the symbiote that gave him access to any and all tech on the planet. You better check those recently deleted photos before going to a dinner party with Wilson Fisk. When Eddie Brock and Peter Parker were duking it out, they both came to the conclusion that the symbiote should just, you know what, be destroyed. It's not helping either party, let's just get rid of it. Great deal. Goopy fist bump. But that's when Kingpin came along and kidnapped both of them, and then he got the symbiote. And honestly, Kingpin Venom, when he's chasing Peter down, he's like controlling tech and using it against him. I can see this being a pretty stressful situation for Peter, but somehow he managed to escape by luring him into the woods and then starting a forest fire. Usually I would advise against forest fires, but it's Venom we're talking about, so burn it. Burn it all. Get rid of him. Number 3, Don Fortunato. Quite an unfortunato story if you ask me. Not really, it's actually quite tragic. Back in 2005, Marvel wanted to reboot Venom, so the new Venom host was now Don Fortunato after he won the symbiote in an auction. Hey, you want a car or you want a life-changing goop that's gonna kill your family? He gave the suit to his son Angelo to make him more tough, I guess. See, Eddie warned about the risks, but Angelo didn't listen. Angelo attacked Spider-Man and ripped out his heart, only to discover, oops, that was just an imposter, because costumes are a thing that exists in real life. And after a fight with the Spider-Man, Angelo left out of fear. Venom wasn't a fan of this because he's like, oh, you're leaving, I don't like you, you're kind of weak. So he left the host, he left him mid-air. Spider-Man would have swooped down and saved him, but his gear wasn't working properly after the fight he just had with Angelo. You played yourself. Number 2, Old Man Logan. We had Laura on the list earlier, so we gotta throw Logan in there too. Of course! Coming from the edge of Venomverse issue 4, we see Logan get captured by Angel, Spider-Girl, and Hulk Jr. when all of a sudden he's eaten by a T-Rex, the same T-Rex that was venomized in the original Old Man Logan story. Now considering the fact that Logan was eaten by the Hulk in that story and then ended up ripping his way out, we gotta think he's probably gonna be okay after this. And he is okay, in fact he's better than ever. The symbiote ended up bonding with Logan inside of the dinosaur, giving us a pretty fun issue. He rips his way through the dinosaur and tears his enemies apart. At one point, we're even given a glimpse of Venom Captain America, but we'll save him for another list. And finally, number 1, Agent Venom. Flash Thompson first appeared in Amazing Fantasy issue 15 back in the early 60s, and since his first introduction as a classmate to Peter Parker, he's seen quite a bit of change. First starting out as a bully, and by the time he left college he was joining the military stationed in Southeast Asia, but he didn't stick around for too long. The American forces just destroyed this beautiful temple that they found, and Flash was having no part of it. It's like Avatar, especially after meeting the lovely Shashan who healed him. He was like, guys, don't do this, let's just go home. But he went home. home. He returned to America and needed Spider-Man's assistance because the survivors of that hidden temple were now after him because they blamed Flash. Flash didn't become suspicious of Peter Parker being the webhead until much later, in issue 135 in fact. By the time we get to Amazing Spider-Man 574, Flash had returned to the battlefield, this time in Iraq, but he lost both of his legs. When he returned, Shashan was able to help rehabilitate him. Things changed dramatically for Flash when he was enlisted into Project Rebirth 2.0. The government had acquired the Venom symbiote after Mac Gargan's arrest following the siege of Asgard. We break down Mac in part 1 of this list, so you haven't checked that out yet, you know what to do once this is over. So now Flash has legs again. How lovely is that? And Spider-Man abilities, just to top that off. His first task made him enemies with the new Jack-o'-lantern. Honestly, I feel quite bad for Flash. Most see him as a bully. He had a terrible father, he got kidnapped by Dr. Doom because he dressed like Spider-Man one day, and he's got terrible luck. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed that part 2, but before you go, drop us some suggestions down below for future lists. We love you and your ideas, so drop all of them, hit those notifications, and you might see yours in the next one. Who knows? I've been your host, Taylor McWaters. Keep on being you, and we'll see you next time on Top 10 Nerd. Later.